Dan James, my game is too safe, I have to be bold and brave again. Dan James arrives early for training at Thorpe Arch on Friday morning, early for breakfast and early for this interview, because he is in the form of his life, because he absolutely cannot wait for training under Marcelo Bielsa, or for Sunday's game against Manchester United. It's not because the 24-year-old attacker has a point to prove against the club who sold him, and he's very respectful of Manchester United, but simply because he loves playing for this adrenaline-fueled team of Bielsa. And so before flying out for training, looking in the mood and form to race the gusts blasting through Thorpe Arch, the Wales international sits upstairs and reflects on his career, and why Leeds United, even with their injuries, are so watchable under Bielsa. We go toe-to-toe with the best teams in the world, we absolutely love it, we're that fearless, James says. Sometimes the gaffer can be tough with us, but he'll say, do you want to sit off these teams and let them have the ball? No, you go toe-to-toe with them. That's why he's so loved. He has his identity, and that's what he sticks to. We could get beat 5-0, 6-0, it doesn't matter. We're still doing the same the next game. We don't change for anyone. That intensity and philosophy is embodied in Bielsa's beloved Murderball games in training. Full on, no mercy, 4-minute bursts up to 8 or 9 times in succession. It's physical, it's draining, and it's a bit dangerous. Shin pads. James says, laughing. No. Murderball's tough. There's a lot of foul. Basically, both teams play how we play on the weekend. It's 90 minutes crammed into 25-30 minutes. It took me a little bit of getting used to. I enjoy it now. And so to James's journey. He's traveled a long way to come 50 miles. James grew up in the pretty, historic village of South Cave near Hull, where his father, Kevin, coached him in the local football team. My dad was involved and the grassroots was so important, James recalled. That's the first football you come into. You create great relationships, you understand football, and from the start it's about enjoying football. That's the main thing I say to people from a young age. You have to enjoy football, and even when you start getting paid and it becomes a job, you've got to enjoy it. When I'm playing my best, it's because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. His father was his inspiration. James continues. From when I was very young, he brought me into football. Always him and my mum taking me everywhere. They worked full-time, but took me to training all the time, traveling far. One journey brought particular joy to the Aberdare-born Kevin. He mentioned there's a North Wales camp coming up for under-12s, and asked would I like to go. He took me, and that was when I realized I could play for Wales. Me playing for Wales is a big part about him. Kevin also encouraged his son to play other sports, obviously athletics with his pace. James was also a decent bat, scoring a 50 for South Caves Village first 11 coming in at number 7 aged 13. He attended South Hunsley High School, did well at GCSEs, and made the decision to leave Hull's academy and go to Swansea City at 16. The Swansea move was massive for me and my family, James said. He knew he'd miss Kevin and Elaine and his siblings, Hannah and Alec. It's a long way away, and I knew I'd see them a lot less, James said. It was either Sheffield United or Swansea. I went to Swansea because of their facilities. And where can I develop better? It was a hard decision for me and my parents, for me to move away, but it's made me who I am today. James is tough. His performance a fortnight ago against Aston Villa, probably his best game for Leeds, showed him being too sharp for Ezri Konsa and scoring with a low finish, then too strong for Tyrone Mings for his second. I've always enjoyed the physical side, James replied. When I came through at Hull, we were a Category 3 team, so we played Lincoln, York, Scunthorpe, and it was always a physical battle. When I went to Swansea, that physical side was in me already. A lot of people said, too small. It's a load of rubbish. It's how hard you work with the abilities you have. I came through at Swansea at a great time as I had a manager who fully believed in me. James so impressed under the inspirational Potter that Leeds first came calling during the 2019 January transfer window. James agreed a deal on deadline day and traveled to Elland Road, but it fell through when Swansea restructured the deal. The images of a frustrated James leaving Elland Road were poignant. Kevin was heartbroken as he wanted his son back close to the family home. A fortnight later, James was back at Elland Road with Swansea and the Leeds fans wrapped him in love. That's when it hit me again and I just knew what an amazing club this is, James recalled. The other day my brother sent me the video of the fans singing, Dan James, he wants to be Leeds. Leeds had a corner, the referee was seeing to something and the whole stadium was chanting, Dan James, he wants to be Leeds. It was the only time I ever had goosebumps in a game. It made me stop. I forgot where I was. The game was just a blur to me. Leeds' love intensified when he was substituted. I had better applause coming off than Pat, who got subbed at the same time. The fans were amazing to me. Tragically for James, Kevin passed away on May 22, 2019. James posts emotional tributes to his father each year, and privately knows how proud he would be by his continued rise. James's journey accelerated when Manchester United swooped on June 19, 2019, paying Swansea £15 million. He played 73 times and scored 4 times before the proliferation of attacking players, including the arrival of winger Jadon Sancho, led to the club selling him. Bielsa was still keen, so Leeds laid out £25 million and finally got their man. I had a great time at Man United, James said. Some people can talk of my time there as a failure, but for me, I played so many games, I learned so much, and it was a great experience with top players. The difficulty was in dealing with the pressure that clings to that red shirt. With a club like that always comes a lot of stuff on and off the pitch, the expectancy to win, and things are always thrown your way. James found himself playing safe, turning back rather than taking his full back on with the same freedom he'd had with Swansea. I was coming away from who I was as a player and why I got bought in the first place, he said. I felt part way through I'd become safe. If you're going to be safe, you're going to be out of the team. Since moving to Leeds, James jettisoned that safe weight, helped by analyzing some of those United performances. I looked back at a lot of games, he said. I had to really look at how I can get back to that Swansea and be who I wanted to be. It's up to me to be bold and brave. That's what I am as a person, and it's up to me to be that on the pitch as well. I've got to hold myself accountable. I don't feel like I've reached anywhere near my potential yet. I've still got so much more to go. So his first reunion with United will be poignant. I ask how he will react if he continues his scoring run of 3 goals in 5 Premier League games. Will he celebrate? Of course, I'd celebrate. I can't not, he said. It's what the game's about. A lot of emotion. I've got no hatred towards Man United. I left on good terms. I've still got a lot of friends there. It's a great feeling scoring. Though of course I'll celebrate. I want to score every game. Some players really want to score against their old club and give it back to the fans. That's not me. The fans were great to me there. The fans are great here. Playing at Elland Road is unbelievable. Every time I go out there, I feel that support. Because I'm leading the line now as well, I've got that responsibility of putting that first tackle in and working hard, and the fans are always behind me. That psyches me up. People always talk of fans as the 12th man, and it is a thing at Leeds. They are always there supporting, behind us home and away, no matter how we are playing. James emphasizes he's enjoying playing through the middle, partly because of a player he admired growing up. Thierry Henry is someone I always looked up to, James said. He was 6, watching Henry and the Invincibles. It's unbelievable what he did in the Premier League, and what he did that season when Arsenal went unbeaten, and he was a massive part of that. He could play out wide, up front, anywhere. It was his ability on the ball. He wasn't afraid to do anything. He had blistering pace, great feet, an unbelievable finisher. James will doubtless return wide when Bamford is fit. I enjoy it, James adds. As a forward player nowadays, a lot of players who play at the top can play anywhere in the front 3. That adaptability is so important. It's helped me a lot with my movement, facing up against a big center half as a small person, as I've never really come across that before. It helps me if I ever do go back on the wing, as I'll know the movements of my striker. But playing as a number 9 is a very difficult position, especially as a lot of time my back's to goal. But the gaffer believes in me there. Bielsa again. The manager is so respected not just by players, but by top managers around the world, James said. People don't understand just how hard he worked. Bielsa trusts him, particularly with an important role at Leeds' offensive corners. My job is usually edge of the area, James explained. I'm there to protect if there is a counterattack. His pace, clocking 21.81 miles per hour, is phenomenal, as is the frequency with which he puts in his sprints. He averages 30 each time he completes a 90-minute game in the Premier League this season. Only Southampton's Nathan Tella averages more. James accepts every challenge and assignment Bielsa gives him. Becoming a father has added to that maturing process. Yes, I'd say it definitely has, James reflects. Football's not everything. I have my family back home, but I can take football home. It's hard. He's also focusing on Wales's journey towards the World Cup, resuming with a semi-final qualifier against Austria, with the winner facing Scotland or Ukraine. We did so well in the group, we ended up with that game v Belgium getting a draw, and they're ranked the best in the world, he said. When we play against teams like that and we show what we can do, we fully believe after the Euros as well we can get into the World Cup. James is a supreme competitor. Take last week's defeat against Everton, a come down after the display against Villa. We were very disappointed, and the first 24 hours is always hard, he said. I think, how could I have done better? How could the team have done better? How can I improve? When I get home, my missus always says, "Do you want to speak about the game?" Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Football's always on my mind.